All right, well, good afternoon. Thanks for joining my session. My name is Sarah Qureshi, and I'm going to be talking to you about engaging students online today. So while you guys are filtering in, if you would like, just while we're giving everyone a couple more seconds, if you would like to follow along on a personal device, if you're using a laptop right now to watch this, what you would do is you would take your cell phone, turn on the camera like you're going to take a picture, and just hover it over the QR code. You don't need an app or anything like that. If you hover it over the QR code that's right here on my screen, a tab will pop up asking you to go to a website. Click yes, because that'll take you right to basically what we're looking at right now. And if you don't want to do it, that's perfectly fine. It's up to you. If you do, though, it'd be great, because then you'll be able to do a little bit more interacting with me throughout the presentation. You'll see a little bit later. So that's up to you. If you would like to open up another tab on your laptop so that you can follow along, you could do that as well. If you look at the top of my screen here, you'll see the name of, or the link to the website. It's NYSATA2020.weebly.com. So please feel free to do that as well if you would like. So while you're getting all set up and situated, I don't know if this is your last session of the day or not, but I hope you've all been having a great time. I've learned a lot of stuff from other speakers today, and I'm really excited for this one. So if I were to give this workshop maybe a more formal title, or maybe more scary title, I would call it Effective Instructional Design and Aesthetic Tools for Engaging Learners. While I'm doing my workshop too, instead of using a slideshow or PowerPoint, I decided to use the product that I'm going to teach you how to create today. So I actually made a website instead of a PowerPoint or slides for my presentation. And I also, while I'm going through this, I want to model for you how I would use this when I'm teaching my students. So I am going to point some things out here and there, and you might just notice them on your own organically. All right, let's get started. Also, before I get started, I want to remind you, any questions you have, if you could just throw them into the Whova chat, not the Q&A, the actual chat itself, because that's live. And my co-host Nick is going to be monitoring that, and he'll stop me here and there to ask your questions, but I'm definitely going to leave some time at the end as well for you to ask those questions. And I can't wait. So let's get started. Not sure if you're familiar with this dude over here on the left, but I want you to know that, and you probably already know, your teaching is an art, and the lessons that you create for your students is your art. You put your heart and soul into that. You put your skills, your knowledge into that. That's your art. So when you go about creating your lessons, and whatever it is you put in front of your students or present to your students, however you do it like an artist. So anytime you use any kind of website or anything that you want students to be able to navigate on their own, I'm always going, or for me, you're going to see a button here, and it should help them. If you are using your regular browser on your laptop right now, you should see at the very top, I have the whole menu bar. But if you're using your cell phone, there's going to be in the top corner, like these 3 lines, little drop-down menu. So students can navigate your website that way, or I like to have a button that's just going to take them to the next thing so that they'll never get lost. It's like leaving breadcrumbs for them. So in this page here, how to build a website, I don't know where everyone is as far as your technical skills. And I tell my students, whenever you come to whatever it is I'm teaching them, like say you're a chemistry teacher, you don't go to chemistry knowing chemistry. You come to chemistry so that you can learn about it. And so if I ever want my students to create a website, which is something that I often do, then I just assume they know absolutely nothing about that. So what I'm going to put in front of you is basically what I would have for my students, no matter what I'm teaching them, just base level. And then those of you who are already doing things like this, that's awesome, but maybe we can amp it up a little bit. So this page that I have right here, and hopefully you have this website now on one of your devices. If not, I will definitely put it on the Whova app after my presentation. But this page here is going to teach you step-by-step how to actually create a website, which is a really, really great tool for teaching kids, because it's just there. It's there forever. It's not temporary. It's permanent until you go and you change it or take it offline, but it'll update anytime you update it. Kids will see it. And it's something that I value a lot as a teacher, because it's also for me a growing library of my instructional resources. So say I made this website 10 years ago. I can look at it next year and it'll just be there, and it'll be great, and I can update it and make it better and better. And that's why I highly recommend you use something like this. Just so you know though, if you do use Weebly.com, I do not work for Weebly.com. I just happened to have stumbled across it like 8 years ago when I started teaching. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really, really easy to figure out. And I didn't know anything about web design. It was so easy to use. It's free. And there's a few other websites as well that you could use. I just tend to go to Weebly. It's my favorite one. But this is a free website where you can go and create websites. And if you do that though, just a heads up, if you decide to do that, I do recommend going with the free version, because I'm very, very cheap, but also because it has so many capabilities. I haven't had a need to purchase anything, but let me explain what I mean by that. If you create the website and you do all the free stuff on there, when you publish your link, notice if you typed mine in, it was NYSATA2020.weebly.com. It has to stick the Weebly in there. It's kind of like the trade-off. All right, you can use our stuff, but you got to let us put our link in there for you. So you might say you make artclass.weebly.com. That'll be your domain. If you want, and maybe some of your districts might let you pay for it, or they might pay for it for you. If you want, you could purchase a domain. Say it's like $100 a year. Could be artclass.com. That's up to you and your preferences, just not for mine. So anytime you ask your students to access this, whether they're with you and you're doing face-to-face Zoom teaching, or they're doing it on their own, I highly recommend that you make it, again, the breadcrumbs, you make it as easy to follow as possible. So right here, I'll have an instruction for them. And notice how I will have some words in different colors, or some words bolded, or some things larger than others. That's very, very important here. Imagine like those teaching philosophies that you wrote whenever it is you got into your career. I can only name one employer that actually in my interview read my teaching philosophy word for word, which was amazing. But not everyone will take the time to do that. So why don't we as artists take advantage of using our skills of knowing how to draw people's attention to a work, using color, using emphasis and leading lines, whatever. So for me, when I'm using websites to teach, I will always make sure that I maybe bold or use a different color for the main terms that are in my instructions. Just something to think about when you're creating, when you're designing. And then I have an arrow here just in case. So I also create instructional videos a lot. And if you don't have a lot of experience with that, I'm just going to play it, but you don't have to listen to it.
To create a custom website,
if you are looking to do something like this and you don't have a lot of experience, I just recommend you can just open up Zoom and have Zoom with yourself and record the screen and record the session of you going through this demonstration. You can certainly do something like that. I'd like to get a little bit fancy, put music in there, speed it up. Just a little tidbit though, if you do make an instructional video, keep it short. I don't like watching ads in front of YouTube videos. I always skip it 100% of the time. Or I keep it under 5 minutes because I get bored and I don't want my students to get bored. So if you do make instructional videos, keep them short. So I put a video here. Now say a student, like for a demonstration. So say a student's like, okay, well, I don't want to watch the video again. What was the third thing you did there? Boom, I got steps written out for them. It just depends on what learner preferences are, but why not throw as many options at them as we possibly can? That's the beauty of using technology to teach our students and the internet. We can't, and I'm sure I share this struggle with a lot of my colleagues on here, but getting kids to tune in to our Zoom classes lately has been a little bit challenging. Not that we don't have our students, but absenteeism has been on the rise for sure, at least in my district or at my school. But when they are there, if maybe they're walking around and doing stuff while they're listening to you, but what we can control is what they see. That's what we can control. And what they see needs to be something that grabs them and keeps them engaged in it. And I'm going to get into some of those tips and tricks in just a second. But just again, I want you to see how I go about building these websites. I always leave a picture for them so that they can see what I'm talking about. I have another site here just so that you can just look at what I would recommend. So anytime you have step-by-step instructions, I always include a video, the steps, and I like to include pictures. You might just take a screenshot and plug it in. It's very easy to do with Weebly. I will show you towards the end of the workshop if there's time how I do it, but really it's so user-friendly, you can figure it out on your own, I'm sure. If not, you can come back here and watch the video I made. So before I get into the good stuff, Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, we had a question from the chat. What do you use to screen capture your videos?
To screen capture, so I actually use Screencast-O-Matic, which is there are versions where you can subscribe and pay for it. My district has paid for Screencastify. I've just been so used to using the free stuff for everything. I've never paid a penny for anything online wise. And that's what I use. But like I said, if you don't want to use Screencast-O-Matic or Screencastify, I just go to the website. You might have to download it to install to your computer and use it. And they might even, I've heard of Loom as well, Loom is a really good one. I've heard a lot of great things about that. But if you don't want to get too fancy, then like I said, just open a Zoom with just you in it, share the screen and record on Zoom, and you'll have all of that there. So it just depends where your comfort level lies. Was there anything else for now, Nick?
Nope, that was all. Thank you so much.
Great question. I love that. Keep bringing them in, guys. So before I get to the good stuff now, just remember, anytime you're building a design, make sure that people can follow it. Make sure that you got a title, nice big title at the top, that people can navigate your site easily. I'm trying to think of like an example of a really poorly done website. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Teach website. No, I didn't say that. Moving on. So just make sure it's something that's really easy to navigate, and especially if you're not there with the students. Have graphics, folks. We're visual people. It would be a sin to not have pictures on your page. And then the biggest thing, and where I'm about to go with this, is make sure you use multimodal content to engage your learners' senses. I can't wait to talk about it with you. I just want to share a super quick story. When I was doing my undergrad at Buff State, shout out Buff State people, I had a wonderful professor who has since retired, and her name is Dr. Cheryl Hamilton. And if anyone has taken her class, you are very familiar with her Art in a Box project. And basically, in a nutshell, you had to create this 3-dimensional thing that would make middle schoolers go, oh my God, cool. And then they would want to go open your box. And inside the box, there would be little lessons for them to do. But the challenge was it had to be 100% student, like self-guided. So you couldn't be involved in it. You could just watch from afar, like between bushes or something. But the students basically had to just know how to open the box, how to access the lessons, how to read the instructions, what to do with the projects when they were done. It was almost like, it was such a valuable learning experience, because it was like you were planning the project, or sorry, you're planning the activities from a 360 point of view. You're looking at it from the teacher, from the student, and then you had to think everything through so thoroughly to make sure that it was easy for them to follow and engaging enough for them to want to see it through. And that's how I approach building websites. To me, it's like just little websites, art in a website, there you go, or website in a box, whatever. Shout out to Dr. Hamilton for that one. Great lesson to learn. So I like to, at the bottom of my page, remember that button we clicked on next to Bob Ross on the first one? For this one, click on your favorite color in the paint palette below. Okay, so I get to interact with it. This one's my favorite color here. I'm gonna click that one. Insider secret, it doesn't matter which one you click. It's gonna take you to the same page. And my kids know that, but for some reason, every time they take like 30 seconds to a whole minute to be like, oh, what is my favorite color? And you know what? I don't mind it. It's not a waste of time to me, because they're using the website and they're looking at it. So before this weird thing that's going on outside that makes us teach at home now, I would have students in a computer lab with me, and they would just be following on their computers with the website. So the fact that they were able to scroll and like move around and do that stuff on their own made them very happy. Now I just share my screen with them. So I do recommend letting them scroll. However, if you're like me and you're very performance oriented when you're teaching, I stress with them, do not scroll ahead of me, because if you ruin my punchline, I'm going to be really mad because my jokes are very well timed. My bad jokes are very well timed. So it's very important. All right, let's talk about engaging our kiddos. I want you to remember that the strength of technology is the ability for us to differentiate instruction. So when we're talking about multimodal learning, it suggests that when a number of our senses are being engaged during learning, we understand and remember more. Are we getting kids moving around a little bit? Are we having them listen to things as well as looking at things? That's why we say, and God help us art teachers, we can't stand it either, but just listening to lectures the whole time is tough. And that's why I would prefer for you to be using your own device to follow along with me. It's hard not having dialogue with everyone right now, but those are things, it's weird, right? So, I mean, it's like watching myself in a mirror as you're like, or when you're driving to work, you're talking to yourself, like, that's what's going to happen today. I don't know. So
Take some questions quick.
please.
We've got, do you use your websites with all grade levels?
I do.
All of them. Perfect.
All of them.
And then the other question was, where did you get the fun fact at the top?
The fun fact, well, none other than the internet, right, guys? Research. So, that's I love that question, because that just like my brain just like something just went back in. Make sure you're doing research. Do some research on like what is making kids engaged. There's a lot of research out there of what engages students in the classroom, but also in the virtual classroom. So I highly recommend you look into that. And I'm going to give you some ways that you can do that research while you're teaching, some action research. I'm going to get into that shortly. But yeah, okay, I did skip over it. The human brain processes images 60,000 times faster than text, and 90% of information transmitted to the brain is visual. That is very true. Those of you who suck at remembering names but are really good at remembering faces, welcome. Welcome to the club. That's my way of summing up that little fun fact. And it's true. All the researchers say this. So what is multimodal learning? Just a quick synopsis of what that is. I'm not going to read off of this. Notice once again, I have color coded just some of the main words here, or the most important information. We're talking visual learning. Anytime you're teaching students, and especially if you're using the internet, a virtual platform like Weebly, make sure that you're including graphics, cartoons, illustrations, put videos in there, not just videos you're creating, but put videos from other people on there. It's great for them to hear things from multiple points of view. And using this platform, you have that liberty to do that. Use flowcharts, diagrams. Let's say you're teaching them about something that has to do with the timeline. And you could just put like, okay, in 1920, great. But when you have a picture, it's going to be so much more effective and engaging for the students. When you're looking at auditory learning, we're talking about include a podcast for your kids or an audio book. Really just listening to their instructor teaching can be auditory. So instead of just saying, okay, look at this website and learn something, it'd be helpful for them to hear your voice, whether it be on Zoom, or I'm going to show you an example in 30 seconds. Kinesthetic learning, getting the kids to move, do something. For me right now, and for many of you, it's the students drawing along with you, and then maybe showing their work if they're willing, which yikes, so many are not willing, but some are. Having them do things along with you or along with the content. And lastly, reading and writing. It's all right there in front of them for the students who need to go back. What I love about using the internet, is that it's not a supplement to you teaching in the classroom. Please don't think about it that way. It's an enhancement to what you're doing, what you've typically done. It enhances what you already do. You don't have to change what you do. You're enhancing it using multimodal teaching and learning. So I have 4 very important tips that I have for you here. And I want to show you though how you might use an audio message for your students instead of just listing it out like this. So I'm going to play it. It's only 1 minute long. Remember, I said I get super bored, and I'm sure that your students would get bored if you take a long time. So I have a 1 minute synopsis of these 4 tips here, and I'm just going to play it for you.
Hopefully, you've been experimenting with ways to increase engagement in your student learners. When doing that, make sure that in each of your lessons, you're appealing to all 4 learning styles, which include visual learning, auditory learning, kinesthetic, and reading and writing. I suggest you go about adding different media to your courses. You're not going to reinvent the wheel here, really. You're just repurposing content that you already have. For example, you can add audio to your lessons so that when students click play, they can hear you teaching about it, and then they can go back and listen to it again and again until they feel ready to move on. You can use blended learning techniques where you interweave face-to-face learning with online learning, which is something that most teachers are already doing at the moment. Learners can do multimodal assignments and get creative using different parts of the brain to answer questions. You should provide feedback through different media with your learning management system, because sometimes our tone can be misinterpreted in email. Therefore, you should explore alternative ways to giving feedback, like creating audio messages or sending a video or just having a video conference with students.
Sometimes, some of us have ELL students and SPED students who require that instructions are read aloud to them or several times. This does that. This does that for them, and it does it for them on their own time as well. The beauty of this is that they can go back to it after the class is done. Even like demonstrations. Imagine now you just have this whole library of demonstrations that students can revisit time and time again whenever they want and do it on their own time and at their own pace. So before I keep going on, Nick, are there any questions so far?
Not at the moment. I think you're good.
Okay, perfect. Pop them in there, guys. I appreciate it. And as usual, I like to put like hyperlinks, and there's fun buttons. Who doesn't like pressing buttons? Come on, teenagers. So they press the button and it takes you to a website where you can learn more about this. Also, it saves my butt from copyright. So I want you to ask yourself, please, do your teaching sessions mainly stimulate 1 or 2 of the senses, or are you attempting to engage your learners in a variety of ways? Like I said, you're not changing what you do, you're enhancing what you do using this beautiful platform that is the internet. And I mean, look, things that are moving and things that are colorful, who doesn't like these? To me, I love it because I can constantly, you know how we hook our students at the beginning of our lessons, you can constantly hook them with this. It's constantly dragging them in. They'll be like, oh my God, that's Will Smith or Fresh Prince. Like just having that eye candy is it's a great thing. And you know what, as art teachers, we are at an advantage. Yes, every educator is doing something virtually right now, whether you're full hybrid or full remote like myself at the moment. And so everyone's creating online content, but it's not enough to be able to create it. You have to create it so that it's effective and engaging for the students. Because when you're having fun, you're learning. And we are art teachers. We know everything there is to know about visuals and how to get people to focus on something in particular, or how to help them move along. So we know those things. So do it like an artist. I'm not going to get too deep into this part, but for those of you who really want to tackle this and want to tackle it with some formulaic research, I've got it there for you. My background is in educational technology, and I am an aspiring administrator. And what I want to do is I want to help teachers just get better and better and get to the point where they want to be as far as helping students and enhancing their instruction. So anyone who's interested, there's something known as the ADDIE model for instructional design. And I have some more things here for you to use, some more resources for you, but essentially it's a model that instructional designers use when creating e-learning tools. So Christmas is coming. What will you ask Santa? Oh, maybe he will create instructional websites for you. But if he doesn't do that for you, you might have to be the one who does it for yourself. Oftentimes we are the instructional designers. I've never had someone create my stuff for me, like my worksheets and stuff like that, if I have those, but you're going to be that person. So if that's something you want to do, just going through the phases, there's the analysis phase. So knowing your learners and what it is you want to do with them, like what are your learning goals for your kids? The design phase, figuring out how you're going to teach that. You already do these things, but you're going to do them online. The development phase, so actually creating your website or whatever it is that you're creating for your students and how you're going to teach it. And then the implementation phase, when you actually go and teach it. Notice I have images with all of these. They're not the most amazing images, but just having the pictures there make my eyes happy. My eyes are hungry for pictures, not for words. So just having that there, I'm sure your eye is going right to that and not necessarily all this writing. And that's the goal. So implementation, when you're actually using it to teach. And then the most important to me as an educator is this phase right here, is the evaluation phase. Not so much, hey, did my kids learn something, but more so, is my teaching effective? And are my instructional tools effective? I just came from a phenomenal workshop. My co-host was there as well. And she was talking about giving polls for the students, Zoom polls, or any kind of system to get feedback from the students to see if something was working for them or not. Get feedback. Ask your students, is my website good for you? Is it bad? Is it fun? Is there something I can do? Talk to your learners. Many instructional designers, like I just said, are going to be you guys. So it's important that you not only understand how to make e-learning tools that meet your instructional needs, but also to take them to the next level and just maximize student engagement. Make them good. Hook those kids. Just a few really important tips that I have for you. Choose your color palette wisely. Notice that my website, it's very simple as far as the background goes. It's not a lot of distracting stuff. I like clutter, and I can't not have something on my walls in my classroom. So I kind of feel the same about this, but studies show that you have to have clean backgrounds to help your learners really focus on what's important. So I understand that. So it's very important that you're using a color palette wisely, knowing your students. Like you've seen, I've been highlighting certain words that should pop out. My fonts are the same, so I'm not changing that. I'm keeping that consistent. But anytime you want to summarize something and highlight keywords, do that and use a color palette to do that with visual design in mind. Utilize YouTube and the existing library of videos. They can watch me draw all day, but why not watch other artists and how they do things too? I'm gonna say it. Don't be scared to use TikTok. Actually, don't be scared to ask your students to use TikTok. So you're going to watch my video on, I don't know, drawing facial proportions, but I want you all to find a video on TikTok or Snapchat or whatever it is you use that your parents know that you use.
And
I just want you to
have
know
them
our
send-
teacher is going to be coming into.
Nick, your voice changed. Just make sure that you have your kids bring what they can bring in to the art room. Have them help you with your instruction. And lastly, this is a favorite of mine. You're looking at a GIF right now, this moving image. But GIFs really, by the way, it is a hard J. I researched it. It's not GIF, it's GIF, like the peanut butter, Jiffy. GIFs are a fun way to provide like a humorous element or visual with your content, and it's moving. So like whose eyes aren't like, oh my God, is that Luigi and Mario? What are they doing? Oh, Jiffy, what's Jiffy.com? You're learning now. A really, really important thing I want you to know. I'm a huge advocate for using the internet to teach even before this whole, whatever's going on outside. But just don't forget though, that the teacher is mightier than the mouse. The teacher has always been mightier than the mouse. You're not changing this. This does not replace that. Even though I have this instructional website and yeah, you can come access this. You didn't have to come here to hear me, but it's so much more effective to be here with the teacher and learning from the teacher. This is just a tool. It's not a replacement. So Nick, is there any questions before I continue on?
Right now, we are up to date.
Fabulous. And don't forget, put those questions in the chat, folks. Oh, look, we're going to help the kitty grab a slice of pizza to take us to the next page. All right, let's see if I can get it. Did I get it? Newsflash, folks, it didn't matter if I hit the pizza or not. Once again, having them interact with it, make it a game. That was just a GIF I pulled in there, and I linked it, the image, like a button, to the next page. Why not have fun? And yeah, it's completely irrelevant, but I mean, people get bored. All right. So I just put an example here of how you can, like what you can have on your introductory page when students log on to your website. Welcome to art class. And look, I have Spanish and Arabic here. I hope it is. I use Google Translate. But these are, I can't say hello in all these words in Spanish, but I can certainly put it here for my ELL students and Arabic as well. Use this to your advantage. And as always, have some type of introduction. The title's there, and I also have something explaining what they're going to do when they get to this page with a big giant red arrow, so they can't miss it. You know, some will, but most of them shouldn't. And it tells them, all right, click on the picture to the left. That's my Bitmoji. So they can complete today's bell work. When you click on it, it actually opens up a Kahoot game that I linked to it, but I X'd it out because I want to show you the rest of this. So then if I was teaching, we would do the Kahoot game, done. All right, X that out, go back to our website. And then I always have a button here for them to click so that it takes them to today's learning objectives or a different page on my website. And then I have to update that every single day. However, it's not as time consuming as me replanning all my lessons because they're already on my website. It's a lot of work up front, but once you have it forever, and it's just a tremendous tool. Let's say class is ending now. Really, so maybe many of you have received, this is my favorite email ever. Miss Qureshi, I missed class today. Did I miss anything? Nobody. We all held our breath for 45 minutes because you weren't there. Or maybe you did miss something. Just go to our course website and just look at the recap section. And I have a little recap here of what they learned that day. Oh, look, I even have a map here, geography teachers. Click that, it takes you to the origin that we were learning about. And you can have exit tickets on this website. I just like drag and drop an RSVP form or contact form and I change up the questions, super easy to do. And it links right to your email. So the kids will put their name in here. I have a question, I plugged a picture in. They put their they put their response in there and hit submit. Done. And I receive it on the back end of Weebly, which I'll show you momentarily. It tells me their name, when they submitted it, and their answer. You can also do attendance this way if that's something you're interested in. So for you guys, I have some more resources here that show you real websites that so I created this website just for this presentation, but I wanted you to see what my actual course websites look like. And you're absolutely free to use them. It's on the internet, so I mean, everyone can see it. So please use them as you wish. I recommend you use them to reference and just kind of see like how I would suggest doing things and laying them out for your students, for your instructional tools. And yes, you can use them to teach your students. I'm happy. I would love any student to look at it and use it and learn from it, but I encourage you to look at them and then make your own. So just so you know, this first one, the TV here, I teach advertising and design. This one on the right, I teach digital media technology. So if you click those, it'll take you to those websites. I teach photography and I also teach film or cinema. That's my favorite one. So if you're a big time TV or movie nerd and you really like bad jokes that I make, click on that one. It will take you to my film course that I teach students. And you'll see what my websites look like. So before I get to the final part of this here, I just want to read these two quotes to you because it's very important for us educators. At the heart of effective technology integration, technology offers opportunities to be more actively involved in the learning experience and provide opportunities for an emotional connection to the content, invite conversations, dialogue, so important, and create associations to personal experiences. So before I get to the feedback portion, I'm going to show you my Let's Keep in Touch button down here. And look, giant picture. I've got a big title at the top, should be the biggest. And I've got some type of instruction for you to know what this page does. This is probably my favorite quote, and this has got to be like the whole premise of my presentation today. I want you to know that the goal is not to be perfect by the end. The goal is to be better tomorrow. Every single one of you who've had to drastically change the way you do things, you used to be here and now you're here. Even though you might see someone who is an expert at something and they're all the way over there, doesn't matter. Baby steps are fine. As long as you're trying things and you're getting feedback from students and you're seeing what works well, what's not working well, changing, doing it again, being honest with yourself. And those are very important things. If you would like, on any device you're on, this is a form for anyone to ask me a question. It could be parents, it could be students, it could be you guys. You would go on, you would add your name here, your email, and you would type a question and hit submit. And you can do that on any device, and it would go directly to my email because that's how I set it up. There is also a YouTube and blog link down at the bottom here. I have a YouTube channel where I create instructional videos for folks. So, how to make a website is one of the videos on there. And you could just click this YouTube link to find it and subscribe. I also have a blog where I talk about some suggestions for teaching online. And that's, if you click this B icon, it will take you there. Okay, so here's my favorite part. And I hope this ends with a bang for you guys, but I'm going to go to the conference feedback page now. I made it because I want to get some feedback from you guys. I want to know if this was an effective tool, if this was an effective presentation for you all at all, or impactful in any way. But before you do, before you give me a Yelp review, I want to show you something really, really, really exciting, at least to me, for what you can do with Weebly. I'm going to show you a different website. I made this website and I presented on this. I don't know if any of you attended this at the last conference, but I used Weebly to create a blog where I showcase student work. And I only use first name. You can use initials. You can talk to your district about Ed 2D law. That's very important. You don't want to give away personal information about students. But I decided that I wanted my students to critique one another and have dialogue about it. But I wanted it to expand outside of the art room and outside of the halls of our school. I wanted it to go global. What easier and more free way to do that than using the internet. So on Weebly, I created a blog, which I'm going to show you the one I created for you guys in a second. I post their artwork, I post their artist statement, and then folks can go in and there it is. They can comment. Imagine, I'm just going to say Da Vinci because I had the Last Supper on there. Imagine if Da Vinci posted his work, and then you could go in and you can type and ask him questions about it or comment on it. You could troll Da Vinci and say, oh, this is crappy. You say whatever you want. And then he responded to you. That would be amazing. And it would be there forever. And you could see what people say about your work and what the artist has to say about it. And that was the beautiful thing about using Weebly as well, is that I can create critiques on here for my students, and they're there forever if they want to use them and respond to them. And it's very, very, very easy to do. So I have that on our website if you would like to experiment with that right now. On the conference feedback page, I have a blog post. It says, thank you so much for attending this conference. I always have some type of, I like to define what a constructive critique is for my students time and time again. So I'll always have those instructions on the side of the page, and I'll always have some type of questions to help prompt them in their responses. But if you would like to leave me some feedback, I would absolutely appreciate it. And all you would do is you would click where it says comments, and it'll take you here. And you could just leave your first name. You don't have to leave email. You don't have to leave a website. You just put your comment in there, and then you hit submit. And then I'll see it, and I can come in, I can respond to you, and we can have conversation. Whatever it is that you want to do. And that's the beautiful thing about using the internet. You can have dialogue with people from all over the world. And that's my favorite thing about instructional websites. So, Nick, what questions do we have?
Well, first of all, Sarah, that was absolutely wonderful. Your students are so lucky. We see lots of comments on here about just your delivery and your humor, and people are saying you're a rock star. So thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
Thank you all.
It was a question that popped up, which literally you answered with your last section with the Weebly and the critiques, but there were a couple of questions for clarifying.
Sure.
So is it a widget that you use on your Weebly? They were wondering what formatting you use on Weebly to enable comments.
Oh, that's a great question. Or how about disable comments, even more importantly? No, I'm kidding. Actually, I should say that that's a great question. I'm going to show you what the other side, like the creator side of Weebly looks like. But just know that if you do open it up to the world, that, I mean, people and other people aren't always nice on the internet. So make sure you monitor that. You can also set it up. I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to hit edit my website, the same one that I showed you today. Make sure you monitor certain things. And, you know, if you have teenagers, monitor them as well. Don't ever leave them in the room alone. So I'm gonna start pulling that up, and then I'll show you as I get. Just didn't take me a little bit to get into that. So Nick, is there another question you want me to address while I'm pulling that up?
Yeah, there was somebody that said that their school doesn't allow Weebly.
Oh,
You recommend any other website builders that you could kind of do the same, that might be approved by their school district?
sure, absolutely. I'm sure that most schools are Google friendly and are happy with Google Sites. So you can use something like that, and you can certainly link it to, there's like blogs that you can use through Google as well. Google has everything. My only thing is, my only gripe with it, and I don't, if you guys want to yell at me about what I'm about to say, do it on my blog, okay? But basically my problem is it's not as visually fun, Google Sites, as I find using Weebly. I've used other platforms like webs.com and wix.com, Wix. I highly recommend those as well. I have just found that Weebly is just so much quicker. They give you a template, and just filling in those templates are so much faster and more fun for me. So I would say you can absolutely use Google Sites. It's just, I just don't think it's as pretty. Shots fired. So what else? What else do we got?
Just a couple people commenting that their school blocks Weebly and only being allowed to use Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
But overall, people are very, very excited about making a website for instruction. Best session today, somebody commented.
Stop it. Guys, I'm so excited. That's so wonderful. Hey, that's great feedback. Even mean feedback is good feedback. So please, I really, really want to hear what you got. I want to show you what like I said, I'm going in and I'm editing stuff here, and I want you to see. Again, follow my instructions too for doing this. You always hit publish when you're done making changes to make it live. But there's all these things up here. This toolbar on the left is your BFFFFFF. This is where you can drag and drop things. So when I wanted you guys to fill out, let me go to that contact page, for instance, like when I wanted you to fill out this form, I just pulled over. Like, I feel like I cheat all the time because I find the cheapest way to do things, you know. I'm a good shopper, if that helps you all feel better about how free this is. But like, I took a contact form, dragged and dropped it there. And then like I changed all the stuff, like the prompts, what I wanted people to do with it. When you click on that form, you can edit the options. And there, you can do this with the blogs as well. It's just, it looks a little bit different, and I don't want to take too long pulling that up. But I can go in and I can change where the email is going to. I can change like what kind of confirmation message the person gets when they send it in to me. There's also where to go. I want to go to the blog settings and find that for you. But like I said, you can control, like you might have to approve every comment that comes in if you want to do that. Or you can I mean, there's so much. You can erase comments on there. You can go back and edit your own on there. You have a lot of options with the free version. So don't spend it. Don't throw any money at anything until you really try out the free version. I promise there's so many possibilities you have with this. There's also a site password that if you want to really convince your districts, you have a site password. So perhaps if you just give your classroom students the password to access this site, that might make them feel better about scary people visiting your website when you don't want them to. Maybe try it that way.
That's a great idea. So we have another question. Do you ever teach students so that they can learn to make their own websites?
I feel like every class I do, I make them do it for sure. Because I have my students make virtual portfolios. I've also, and I'll pull mine up right now. This might make you guys happy. I made a digital, a website resume. My resume is a website now. And this is common. I've seen a lot of people do this. I used Wix for this one, but it's going to take a second to load. But I've made this so that I can update it regularly. It's not on paper, and you can have your kids do this. I've had my students make online portfolios of anything they want, any schoolwork they want, usually art stuff. But you're certainly, you're all creative, and I'm sure you can come up with some really great uses for this. But yeah, my students use it. Weebly is the best one in my experience with students because it's quick, for sure.
Awesome. And another comment saying that it was extremely helpful. Thank you. Will you be posting to the Whova app your information, like website links?
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that. I'm definitely going to post this website that I created for this so that you have all the videos that teach you how to actually build the site. And you know what, if you're willing, even in the comments too, where you're leaving me feedback, give me some bragging moments. I love to know what everyone else is doing, or maybe you have some kind of questions. I am an instructional technology expert. That is my master's area. I love it. I love coming up again with free ways to solve virtual problems. So anything you have to brag about, or you need some assistance with, or just to shoot some ideas out there with, please let me know. So I'm going to link the site to my Whova. I was just waiting until after this workshop. And so you can see step by step how to do stuff, and maybe get some inspiration from that.
That's awesome. Sarah, thank you so much. We've got one more comment that just says the password on the critiques for the Weebly is life-changing. They're very excited about this information.
I'm so excited. That's really wonderful. That's awesome. And can you imagine, like, now you also have this whole portfolio of student artwork too that's on this blog forever and ever and ever. And you can share it with people, just like I'm showing off to you guys right now. Stop it.
Huge advocacy tool. Absolutely.
Huge advocacy tool. Yeah, I should plug that in. This whole project that I did and I presented on it last year was about activism and things like that. So and what better way to be an activist than to do it globally? And the internet is a wonderful way. So please get creative, brag about what you do, show your districts, and model for other teachers, help them out. But make sure whatever you're putting out there looks good, because that is your art. Your teaching is your art. So do it like an artist.
That is a wonderful closing remark, Sarah. Thank you so much on behalf of NYSATA for sharing your expertise with us today. I'm excited to make some websites.
Yes, I'm so excited for you guys.
Before we get off here, I'm putting in the Whova chat. The CTLE code is 7124. I know I'm having trouble making my spotlighting myself, but 7124. Awesome. So everybody, thank you so much for coming to this presentation today. And again, Sarah, thank you so much for your awesome knowledge on this subject. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. And I can't wait to see what you present next time.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Have fun.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much, Nick.
You're welcome.